Hello everyone! In this tutorial we're actually going to go ahead and make a full functioning game. Now it's going to be a very simple game because we have some time constraints. But anyway, let's navigate straight to the editor. So clockworkchili.com/Wade. So we press enter and hopefully the editor should open. And indeed it does. We are presented with some tutorials, but we are not needing those right now, so we'll just skip that. And we will type in here spaceship game. So now I click create project. So we have our blank empty project. Now the first thing we need to do is download some art assets because we need some spaceships. And to do this, first of all, we have to log in. So at the top right, you should see a face that is not smiling at the moment. That is because we are not logged in. So if we click on that, and we are prompted for our email and password, so I'm just using the tutorial account here. But of course you can use your own. I click login, login successful, excellent. So now we can go to the shop, which is the little shopping cart up here. And we can find some free sprites to download. So I'm just going to navigate to art. And I'm just going to navigate then to objects, and if we scroll down we have some free spaceships, so let's click on that. Now all we want to do is click download. So now we do this, and of course I've done this earlier, so I've actually already got the files, so I'm just gonna look in there and we should have 3 spaceships, so we need to drag these into our editor. So let's go back to Wade, and we're just gonna drag these in like so. Okay, now as well as our spaceships, we also need something to fire, and I could go ahead and make these, but instead I made them a little bit earlier on, because otherwise this video would have basically been an image editing tutorial, and that's not what it is supposed to be. So I'm just going to go and import these 2 shots I made. I made a red one for the enemy, and a blue one for the player. So the first thing we need to do is add a player ship to the game, and I think this spaceship really looks the best for that, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag that into our scene. Now, that is quite big, so first of all, we're going to reduce the size of it. And let's just try and run this, see how big it is. That's still too large. Okay, and we're going to set the position to 0, 0. Let's just run that. And that looks okay, I think. That's passable. And we'll just name this player ship. So we're trying to keep consistent naming conventions. Excellent. So we want our spaceship to be able to shoot things, and to do that we need projectiles. So I'm going to drag this into the scene, and this is going to be a template object. We are going to clone it to create our shots. So we select the template flag. I'm just going to position this at 0x and a little bit in front of the ship. This is just to get an idea of the scale of it. It's not going to stay here. Oh yeah, it's a template object, it won't be visible. I'll just unflag that briefly. That's a bit too big, I think, for a shot, so we'll scale it down. That's better. So I'm just going to drag that off the screen. Just make sure it's off. Yes, it is. And we'll reselect template. And now we need to call this player shot. And we'll just go ahead and save that. So we've got 2 objects. We've got our ship and our shot. So we need to be able to fire. And we're going to do that in the onClick function. So we go to functions, go to onClick. Right, now we need to clone this object. So var shot equals wade.get scene object player shot, and we just need to clone that, so .clone. So that will copy it. It won't add it to the scene, which is the next thing we need to do. So to do that, we simply need to set the position, first of all, a little bit in front of our current spaceship. So shot.set position is going to be equal to this.get position .x, this.get position .y, and we're going to offset it slightly up. We'll try -100. We'll see what that looks like. And then we are going to go to Wade, add scene object shot. So let's just quickly recap. We clone our template object, we set its position to slightly in front of the ship, and then we set it to be added to the scene. And also we need to put true in here because it will need to receive events. So let's just save and run that. So if I click on the ship, we do get a shot. Now, of course, it's not moving, which isn't very realistic, and I think it should start a little bit closer to the ship. So I'm going to change this to -75. And what we are going to do is we are going to do shot.moveTo. And we just want to move it to the top of the screen, really. So to do that, we need to get the current X position. So that's just this .getX position. We need to get the height of the screen. So that's going to be wade.getScreenHeight over 2, and we need to put a minus there because it's the top of the screen. And we also need to make sure it goes off the top of the screen, so we need to also add the width of that sprite to it. So minus shot.getSprite.getSize.x. Okay, I'm just going to make this window a lot bigger so we can look at the code. And a colon there. So I think I've done that right. That looks okay. Oh, we need to give a speed as well, sorry. And that size should be y, not x. All these little mistakes. So we put a comma here, and I'm going to say a shot should go at about 300. We'll see what that looks like. So run. That seems to work okay. So now our player ship can shoot, but it can't move, which isn't that interesting. So we're going to go into app.js, and we're going to create a new function. It's going to be this.onMouseMove equals function, and we need to pass in the data, so we'll just call that data. Now inside this function, we need to acquire our player ship and set it to the position the mouse has moved to. So basically, we are locking the player ship to the mouse. This will also aid in our fire functionality working because, as you know, we have to actually click the ship itself to fire. I could put an on-click event in here, but I decided to put it on the ship because it really does belong with the ship. So we need to get our ship, so var ship equals wade.getSceneObject player ship. Excellent. So we just need to put a colon there, or a semicolon rather. And now we need to get the screen position, which we have because that's passed into this function automatically. So we need to do ship.setPosition, and we need to pass in the data. So we need to go data.screenPosition.x, data.screenPosition.y. So now when we run this, we'll notice our ship sticks to our mouse. Now, as long as we don't move faster than the mouse can move in a frame, our clicking should always fire. So that's pretty good. Now, we do have one problem here. We're not actually removing these shots, so we need to go back to our shot, and we need to go to its onUpdate function first. Now, there are two ways a shot can be removed. Either it hits a ship, or it goes off the top of the screen. And actually, I think we'd used move2 in this, didn't we? So we don't need to go into onUpdate. We can go into... Yeah, we don't need to do any of this. We can actually go into the player ship. And the on-click, here we have our shot. So all we need to do is add an onMoveComplete. So actually, yes, go back to the shot, go to onMoveComplete, which is here. So once that movement is finished, which means it's gone above the top of the screen, we want to remove it. So we just do wade.remove scene object this. So excellent. Now our shots will be removed if they go off the top of the screen, so we don't end up with 1,000,000 shots, which obviously wouldn't be a good thing. So we have our player ship, and it can shoot. And we also just want to quickly add a custom property to this shot, so we go to Properties, Custom Properties, and append is player shot. This is just a flag that I'm going to use later on for collision detection. True. Excellent. So we have our player ship, and we have our shots. Now, we need some enemies. So let's just drag an enemy sprite onto the screen. We'll just go back here. I'm just going to go with a circular one, the good old UFO style. And I'm going to drag that there. And that's a bit overpowering. I don't think this would be a very balanced game. So I'm just going to shrink that down to a similar size to the player ship. Excellent. Now I'm going to call this enemy ship. keeping the naming very consistent. And we're just going to render that and see what it looks like. It's a bit too far up clearly, so we'll just drag that down. There we go, so we can see our enemy. I still think that ship's a bit too big, to be honest, so I'm just going to make it smaller. Yeah, that's more reasonable. I think we can live with that. Now, this ship also needs the ability to fire, but it also needs the ability to move, so there's lots of things it has to be able to do. And I think we're just going to keep things simple, and we're going to have these ships scrolling from the top of the screen. So they're just going to go in a straight line perfectly down. So we need more than one ship, which means we also need a template. So I'm just going to drag this over here and create a template. To start the game, we're going to need our initial ship. So we've just created the template over here, but we need to start spawning them here. And the way we're going to do that is by adding an option to our function in our player ship. So we go to onAdd to scene, and in here we need to create the very first object. After that, they will create themselves after either after they are destroyed or they move off the bottom of the screen. So first of all, we need to clone the template. So var enemy equals... Oh, actually, I should say, sorry. We need to do this on a set timeout because we do not know which order these are being added to the scene. So we need to just delay it a little bit. Otherwise, we could be trying to add our ship before the original template is actually being created, and that won't work. So let's just use a JavaScript set timeout. We create our custom function here, and we put a delay in of 2 seconds. So what that means is after 2 seconds, we will create the first ship. So that just gives us a little bit of a warm-up time anyway. We could display a get ready message if we wanted to, but we're just going to keep things simple. So var enemy equals wade.get scene object, and we just put enemy ship in here. Now actually, I've just realized a mistake I made earlier. I don't know, did I set the name? I need to quickly go back to the player shot to check something. Oh, sorry, the player ship on click. Yes, I just added this before, secretly. Dark magic. We need to add in our onClick function shot.setName. This just wipes out the name because scene objects in Wade can either have no identifier or a unique identifier. And when you clone a template, you also clone the name, and that's very bad. So just go and add this line if it's not already there. Shot.setName and leave the brackets blank. And likewise, we will be doing that with our templated ship rather shortly. But anyway, let's just go back to our onAdd to scene function for the player ship. So we've got var enemy equals wade.get scene object dot clone we need to add. So we're cloning that. We are also setting its name to 0. So enemy, excuse me, set name, and just leave it blank. So now we have our enemy object. But what's it going to do? At the moment, we just add it to the scene, and it doesn't really do anything. So we need to set its position and its behavior up, but all of that will go in the enemy object. So we are just going to... Oh, wait, sorry. We need to add it to the scene first as well. I forgot. Wade.add scene object enemy. And true. So now this will add the enemy to the scene. So that means its onAdd to scene function will be called. So I'm just going to click on the enemy ship, and we are already in its onAdd to scene function, and so far it is blank. So we need to first choose a place to spawn. Now I want it to spawn along the top of the screen, so if I run this, I want it to spawn up here somewhere. So I'm just going to say var x equals math.random minus 0.5 times by wade.get screen width, times by 0.8. So that's just going to make sure roughly it stays on the screen, hopefully. So this should give us an x value that is somewhere along the top of the screen. We also need our y value, which we will do very shortly. So we need to set the position of the object. So its initial position is just x, which we've just calculated. And the other position is going to be the same as we did for the bullet. Remember, when the bullet goes off the top of the screen, we had to do this. So wade.get screen height over 2 minus this dot get sprite dot get size dot y over 2, and then we just set a velocity. So I'm going to go with 150. We'll make it move a little bit slowly, so hopefully Oh, sorry, we're not set. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so that we're just setting the position. We don't need any velocity to do that, obviously. Now, we want it to start moving down the screen, and this is where I was getting ahead of myself. So we need to add this dot move to, and we can basically copy most of this. We just need to change some of the signs. So we start off at the top of the screen, and instead of going to the top of the screen, we need to go to the bottom. So we remove that minus sign, and we change this one to a plus. And here we add our velocity, the speed we want to move. So I'm just going to see if that works. Let's just run our program. Now, I don't see anything happening, so that looks like something's gone wrong. I'm not sure why this spaceship isn't being created. Let's have a look in the onAddToScene function. 2 seconds. This should work. Oh, crap. Sorry. I missed the brackets off the function call, so we were actually assigning a function pointer to that, so that's why that was breaking. So if we run it again, hopefully, after 2 seconds, yes, we do have an enemy ship that comes down. Now, like the shots, we need to remove that when it comes off the screen, and that's quite easy. We just need to go to the ship, go to its onMoveComplete function, and then just do way.remove scene object, and this. Nice and simple. So our enemy ship goes down and it'll get removed. Now, really, if we run it again, we'd like to be able to destroy this enemy ship, but as you see, our shots don't touch it. And to do that, we need to add some code into the enemy ship's onUpdate function. So I'm just going to go to that, and we're just going to do var shots equals wait.get overlapping objects. So what that will do is it gets all objects colliding with the ship, and now we are going to check if any of them have the type is player shot, which I set earlier. If you remember, I'll just click on our player shot here, and we go to the custom properties. Is player shot is always true, so that is what we are going to check. So going back to the enemy ship and functions and back to where we were, which is onUpdate, for var I equals 0, while I is less than shots.length I++. So for every shot that has hit us, we only actually need to worry about one. The others should keep going. So as soon as we have a shot, so the first one that we check, we need to remove our ship because we've been destroyed, and we need to remove the shot. So let's do that first. Let's do wait.remove scene object shots I. So that's the shot we are currently colliding with. We will remove that, and then we will remove ourselves. Wait.remove scene object this. Now there are 2 things we need to do here. First of all, this only applies if the thing we've collided with is actually a shot. So we need to do if shots I is player shot. So that's what that's for, because we don't want it to be able to collide with its own shots, which we'll add very shortly. So I'm just going to save that and move that in there. And the other thing we need to do is we need another ship to spawn after this. So in the remove scene function for enemy ship, so on remove from scene, we need to clone the template and do it again. But as you know, we've already created the code for that. So let's go to the player ship, onAddToScene. This code, we basically need to copy the inside of this timeout. So we go back to our template, enemy ship, on remove from scene, and we paste it in there. So let's just check this will work. You've got to be careful when you copy and paste code. I think it will. So we're going to try and shoot an enemy and see if a new one spawns. Whoop. No, that does not look good at all. That looks like it's frozen. So let's just go to the console. Whoa! Undefined is not a function. That's a lot of bugs. I'll have to run that again to make this valid. So we'll just run. Okay, so clearly some kind of loop is going on here and it's getting stuck. I wonder if it'll let me look at that. Var shots wait get overlapping objects. Oh! Yes, sorry, that is me being stupid. Not way to get overlapping objects. This, we want to get the objects overlapping with the enemy ship. So that was just a bit of a typo, and an example of just debugging a simple problem. So let's just carry on. Let's try run again, see if we are successful. No, we still get a freeze, so now we need to start thinking maybe there's more than one problem. Or maybe that didn't get fixed. I'm starting to get suspicious now. Undefined is not a function, so yeah, okay, that's happening a lot. Let's have a look what it is this time. Bar shots equals... I've just changed this, didn't I? Oh, have I done it in 2 places? That's me being stupid. See, this is a rule that you should always remember, and I've just forgotten. Only make one change in your program at a time, and after you've made a change, run it, because otherwise if you change things in multiple places, you'll get really confused thinking the code you've just changed should work, but it apparently doesn't when in reality it's something you changed elsewhere. So in this case, it is in the onUpdate function of the player ship, I do believe. Sorry, of the enemy ship, so we just go and have a look at that. And of course, again, we need to change that to this, so we were not getting the shots correctly. So we try running it again. And it didn't freeze. And we can shoot a player ship, sorry, an enemy ship, but it doesn't seem to be destroyed. And again, more bugs. So we just click on here. Okay, now that's lying. I think that's actually from before. So let's just go to the last one. This got clone. This dot gets... Yeah, now I've done it the other wrong way round. On remove from scene, this needs to be wait. I'm getting very confused today, and I've just removed something there, but that's just bar. So that was a bit crazy, but I think we fixed all the bugs now. Cross my fingers. And if we shoot, yes! A new ship appears, and we can destroy that one. So that's quite nice. Pew! And it'll keep going forever like that. But it's a bit too easy, so I think the enemy needs to have the ability to shoot back. Now, this is slightly more complicated because I'm going to make the enemy shoot at an angle. I'm going to make them shoot at the player ship because it's more fun that way, isn't it? So we need to go into our enemy and we need to give them the ability to fire. So we don't want them firing constantly, like every frame, but we want them firing quite a bit. So we need some kind of timer in here. So every onUpdate function, what we are going to do... Oh, I forgot, we need to add our breakpoint in here, just so after the first shot has collided, the ship is destroyed. We don't need to check for any others. So let's add a timer, actually, to this object. So custom properties, timer, and we'll set it to 0. So going back to functions, onUpdate, what we do is timer plus equals Wade underscore C... Actually, is it Wade.C time step? Wade underscore C time step. I forgot what it is. Wade.C. There we go. Wade.C underscore time step. Thank you for the editor being helpful there, telling me what. So basically, this is how much time should have passed since the last simulation. And when this gets over... Oh, it even tells me in seconds. That's nice. So if timer is greater than 2, so every 2 seconds an enemy ship will shoot, I think. In fact, let's just test this. Before we implement the functionality, let's just console log die player scum. There we go. We'll just save that, and if we play in our console logs, we should get that. But no, we've made yet another mistake. So let's just have a look. Open F12. Timer is not defined. Yes, that's because we need this .timer in both of these places. Very quick mistake. The console is really brilliant in Chrome. You should definitely use it. So now we're just going to click run. And there we go. Pew. Now I'm not going to shoot that because I want to see the console logs. And as we can see, I think this has gone a little bit crazy. Let's have a look. Oh, wow. That's a bit too often. And the reason for that, of course, is because we did not set the timer back to 0. Okay, so we'll just do that one more time to make sure. I'm waiting. Yep, die player scum came up there. And again. And if you look at the time in the log between those last two, if we go all the way at the bottom. Oh, it doesn't say there. It did say 49 and then 51. So they are 2 seconds apart, which is what I wanted. So I'm just going to remove this now because that was just a test. And we need to actually make a fire function for this ship. So let's add a custom function and call it fire. Now, we're actually going to go right back to where we were, just quickly, and write this dot fire. So once we've implemented this, this will run straight away. Excellent. Now, of course, we need something to fire. So like the other ship, we are going to add a shot, and we're going to just put it over there, and we're going to make it small. And we can mostly copy from our other shot, but for now, let's just name it enemy shot and set it as a template. Now, again, let's look at our other shot. Let's see what we've got. We've got an onMoveComplete function, and we do want to copy that. So we'll just go to red, onMoveComplete. Where is it? There it is. So it'll get removed once the movement of the shot is complete, but we're not moving it yet, of course. So going back to the player shot, let's have a look. Does it have an onAddToScene? No. Does it have... Oh yes, it's set in here, isn't it? It's set in the player's onClick function. Now, of course, we don't really want to be controlling the enemy shots directly. We want it to do it at random, which is what we just set up in its onUpdate function with that timer and fire. So we just need to decide what to do when we fire it. Now, this is more complex because we need it to go at an angle. So let's just make sure we've got the name correct, enemy shot. And now we will go to our fire function. Now, in our fire function, we need to do quite a lot of work, and it could be quite complicated because we need the shot to fly at an angle. Now, I intentionally made our shot circular so we didn't have to do any trigonometry because you don't have to rotate the actual shot. We just need to make it go roughly towards where the player ship is right now. So, first thing we're going to need at some point is a reference to the player ship. So we might as well get that up here. So var player equals wade.get scene object. And then we're going to do player, in quotes, player ship. Another thing we are going to need is our actual shot. So let's clone our template. Wade.get scene object enemy shot dot clone, and of course we need to shot set name to blank just to make sure it's unique. So now we have a reference to our player, now we have a reference to our shot. We need to get the difference between them, and the reason is we want to shoot along the vector to hit the player ship, and the easiest way to do that is to get the difference between them, because the position of the ship minus the position of the enemy ship is basically the direction vector pointing towards the ship. And we're even going to use that in our move_to function. So we're just going to get the distance from the ship between the two ships, and then we're going to multiply that by some very large amount to make sure it moves off screen. It's not really a safe way of doing this, but I think it could work. So I'm going to do it just for speed. I would not recommend doing it this way in a professional project, but we've got to be quick here. So we need to get the difference. So var difference equals. We just need to make sure we get this right. In fact, the difference is going to be a vector. So let's use Wade's vectors. We can do Wade.vec2 dot. No, in fact, this is a smarter way of doing it. Let's normalize the vector. Normalize, if possible. So I'm just making sure this is right. We don't have a vector to do this to yet. So the vector we want to normalize is the difference, which we don't have yet. So yeah, let's just cut that. Sorry, I made a slight mistake. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, let's just make a thing here. We can do Wade.vec2.subtract, and what we are going to do is get the position of the player ship. So player.get position, and that is just a vector, minus this.get position. This is the position of the enemy ship. So let me just check I've done that right. Oh, not minus. This is a function, comma. I always make that mistake. So we just do this, take away this, and we get the result in the difference. Now, we want to normalize this. So now here we can also do Wade.vec2.normalize if possible. And we just put this whole thing in brackets. So that's quite a complicated line of code. We take the player position, we take the enemy position, we subtract them from one another to get the difference. We normalize it, which means we have a unit vector, which is a vector of length 1, pointing towards the player ship, and that is stored in our difference. So just imagine an arrow going from the enemy ship towards the player ship. That is what this basically tells us. This arrow, though, is very, very small, and that was a last-minute piece of inspiration to stop a problem that could have happened. So difference, we need to multiply it. Now, I'm actually not sure on the code for this. It's a while since I've done it, but we'll have a go. So difference equals Wade.vec2.multiply. Oh, mull in place. Oh, so I can do that. Excellent. I don't need this equals. So a vector, another 2D vector. So we need to multiply it. Now the result, the length of this is going to be 1. So we need to multiply it by quite a bit more than that. So I'm just going to multiply difference by, we need to invent a vector. Let's just make it absurdly large. If the unit vector length is 1 at least, I'm going to say 2000. We're going to multiply it by just a big number. I'm not really too fussed. So now we've got an arrow that should go through the target and way off the screen. So that just means our shot will definitely go off the screen. It shouldn't disappear somewhere else. It's a bit of a nasty way of doing it, but again, we are limited on time, so I have to take some shortcuts. Now, we need to actually add our shot to the scene, although I do not believe we've set the position of it yet. No, we haven't. So let's go down here. Let's do shot.setPosition. And we need to set it to the position of the ship. So this dot get position dot x, this dot get position dot y. Now we need to add the shot to the scene. So Wade.add scene object shot true. And we also need to move it. So shot.move to, and this is the target position that we want. So difference.x, difference.y. And we'll put the speed at, we'll try 200, see if that works. Now, when I run this, it is unlikely it is going to work first time. It is very unlikely it is going to work first time. In fact, I don't know why I just closed the console. I want that open. Let's just clear it, though. So let's just try and run it and see what happens. Well, let's see if it can shoot. Oh, it can, and it went the right direction. I'm impressed that that worked. So obviously, it doesn't matter, we don't actually have to dodge these because they can't collide with us, but we can shoot our enemies. So this is becoming quite a fun game already. Although, really, it would probably be better if the enemy shot could actually kill us. So I'm going to go to the player ship, and I'm going to go to onUpdate, and if you remember, actually let's go to the enemy ship. If you remember, the enemy ship onUpdate function has some collision detection. We can copy this exact same thing. We can just copy this, go to our player ship, onUpdate, and do that. So now we have shots. The only difference we need to make is change this to is enemy shot and make sure that the enemy shot actually has that property, because I don't recall if we added it. Apparently not. So let's just append that. Is enemy shot, and we'll set that to true. So now, one more thing we need to do is we need to go to our player ship once again, functions, onUpdate, and if it is shot, we need to actually remove the ship, which we are doing because we just copy and pasted this from here, but we also actually want to clear the whole scene. So Wade.clear scene, that's just going to be our game over condition. So hopefully, if we play this, I'm going to try and avoid the shots first because I want to make sure I can shoot them. Because, to be honest, shooting them is a lot more fun than letting them shoot me. Ooh. Awesome. Okay, I'll let myself be destroyed. Pew. And we die. Now, what happened there, that's interesting. That's actually a little bit of a problem. We cleared the scene, but not before creating a new object. So that's not perfect. But for a little game, it seems to work okay. It'll be quite rare that that actually happens. So we just need to have fun. And of course you could add sound effects. If you watch the sound effect tutorial, you could do that. You could add a score timer. There's a lot of things you could add to this, but for now I have to keep it fairly basic, otherwise this video is going to get far too long. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you will watch further tutorials.